We have the latest from federal court in the Sean Combs criminal case. Status of jury selection, what Diddy's going to be wearing, violation of a gag order, rejecting a plea offer.
At trial, Combs will ditch the jail garb and wear ordinary clothes, as his lawyers argue the evidence shows consenting adults being intimate in their own way.
Back up a little bit, please.
How can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
The decision guarantees Combs will face trial beginning just 4 days from now that will test whether one of music's most prolific figures used his power, wealth, and fame to exploit both women and men for decades.
Sean Diddy Combs' eldest son has reportedly entered confidential cooperation discussions with federal prosecutors in New York ahead of Monday's high-profile trial, which charges his father with serious misconduct, including allegations of ST&R. According to two law enforcement officials briefed on the case, federal records reviewed Friday reveal that prosecutors recently filed an under seal memorandum. That filing outlines anticipated testimony from a cooperating family member, which defense lawyers confirmed refers to 27-year-old recording artist Christian Combs, also known as King Combs. Prosecutors claim that King Combs may offer critical first-hand insights into private flights, guest rosters, and suspicious cash movements connected to Sean Combs. These details are tied to gatherings in the Hamptons and Miami held between 2015 and 2022, a time frame that aligns with the alleged ST network outlined in the federal indictment released last fall. Legal experts believe this development could significantly impact the case. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Mark Diaz explained in an interview that testimony from a close family member is extremely rare in federal conspiracy cases.
What made you come here to support Puff?
I'm supporting Puff because he's innocent, and I'm wholeheartedly believing his innocence, and I know he's innocent. So
you say you know he's innocent?
1,000%.
Major developments tonight involving the case against Sean Diddy Combs, what he decided in court today, and what this now means, the move coming just 4 days before his trial is set to begin. Here's Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, Sean Combs makes it official. He's rejecting the government's offer to plead guilty and spare himself the possibility of a prolonged term in prison. When asked if he turned down the offer, Combs answered, "Yes, I do, Your Honor," as he stood in a baggy beige jail uniform. Terms were not disclosed, but prosecutors did say a plea could result in a shorter sentence for Combs than if he's convicted.
Elaborate, sometimes days-long parties by coercing victims through drugs, threats, and manipulation. They claim to have video evidence, and some of the accusations echo details from over 70 civil lawsuits filed against Combs over the last 30 years.
Mr. Combs feels A, he's innocent, which is why he's not going to plead guilty. B, he's going to be truthful about this case because he wants to portray that to the people who have loved him his whole life. And I think he also feels an obligation to people in general. Maybe it's black people, maybe it's white people, maybe it's anybody who's ever felt aggrieved and targeted by the government. He feels an obligation to those people to say, you know what, maybe I can break the model. Maybe I can show the world that a black man can win, in federal court. And I think he probably is the only person I know of who might be able to actually accomplish that.
And can be powerfully persuasive for jurors. Just last week, Sean Combs declined a plea offer that would have limited his prison sentence to 12 years. His legal team has committed to challenging the charges at every possible stage. The sealed memorandum, first logged on Tuesday, does not confirm whether Christian Combs has signed a formal non-prosecution agreement. However, sources close to the case report that discussions moved forward quickly after Homeland Security agents raided Combs' Los Angeles and Miami homes in March, seizing electronic devices and financial documents. Case summaries reviewed by the defense indicate that at least 14 seized devices hold communications between Diddy and his son, which prosecutors now want verified through live courtroom testimony. Legal observers note that if convicted on all counts, Sean Combs could face a sentence surpassing 20 years. Christian Combs, though never charged, could potentially shield himself from conspiracy liability by cooperating with federal investigators now. Legal analysts point out that any family member who may have witnessed questionable financial activity was vulnerable once authorities seized the elder Combs' devices. Yusuf Roberts, a defense consultant and former DEA agent, noted that digital evidence from encrypted platforms is frequently key in modern ST cases. Messages extracted from one such app allegedly show Christian Combs arranging charter flights that transported high-profile guests to invitation-only white parties in the Hamptons and yacht events in Biscayne Bay. Prosecutors argue those chartered flights, paid for through shell companies linked to Bad Boy Entertainment, further support the theory that Sean Combs coordinated a network of employees to transport individuals across state lines for illegal purposes. Defense attorneys, however, counter that these flights were simply part of logistics for legally sanctioned promotional gatherings featuring music industry professionals and business partners. In a motion filed Thursday, Sean Combs' lead attorney, Aaron Sussman, accused the prosecution of using family ties as leverage, calling the approach a low point in celebrity-related cases. Sussman requested that Judge Arun Subramanian review the sealed proffer containing Christian Combs' statements in a private session.
This is going to be such a massive trial, like maybe the biggest Hollywood trial. God knows which way it's going to go. Are they going to, is it going to go on for weeks? And
for sure, weeks.
Federal trafficking, racketeering, and charges beginning Monday morning.
He knows the deck is stacked against him. They've got a ton of evidence. Take the plea deal, dude. Just take it.
Well, my guess is that, because we don't know the deal of the plea deal. At least I don't think we do.
True.
Okay.
Would you be open to a plea bargain?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent. And what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agrees.
Before allowing it into evidence. The judge declined, stating that he would rule on admissibility after the jury selection process. Representatives for Christian Combs have refused to comment, citing active legal proceedings. However, a source close to the situation confirmed the younger Combs met twice with federal prosecutors in early April. These meetings were held under the guidance of his own independent legal counsel. That time frame corresponds with public complaints from Sean Combs' legal team about being excluded from key developments, including interviews with important insiders. Meanwhile, pressure continues to mount on other figures once aligned with Diddy's business empire. Rap mogul 50 Cent recently claimed via social media that he possesses court documents listing celebrities who benefited from ventures tied to Combs. Insiders say prosecutors have already subpoenaed paperwork detailing guest features, endorsement agreements, and financial distributions linked to the Bad Boy Network and its affiliates. Although no additional family members are currently confirmed as cooperating witnesses, sources familiar with the case say federal prosecutors have also reached out to Justin Combs and Quincy Brown, requesting voluntary interviews. Their involvement remains unconfirmed. The public reaction in black entertainment circles has been notably divided. Some longtime industry veterans have expressed empathy for Christian Combs, noting the unique difficulty of balancing familial loyalty against potential legal exposure. Others, however, argue that Christian has a moral duty to reveal what may have taken place behind closed doors. The culture can't demand accountability and then criticize the first family member who speaks up, noted music journalist Danielle Harper, who has chronicled the rise of Bad Boy Entertainment since the early 1990s. That sentiment echoes throughout discussions as people debate whether Christian's involvement should be viewed as betrayal or necessary transparency. Sean Combs' cultural influence remains historically significant. From the height of Bad Boy's dominance in the mid-1990s to his post-pandemic ventures, Combs's annual white parties attracted a who's who of celebrity power, featuring stars such as Mary J. Blige, Usher, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, along with athletes, actors, and major tech investors. Prosecutors now allege that these luxury gatherings were more than social showcases, claiming they doubled as recruitment opportunities within the broader ST operation. The defense team has categorically rejected these assertions, calling them exaggerated fabrications designed for media impact. However, legal experts note that testimony from a close relative, especially one involved in logistical operations, can be vital for connecting disparate financial records and third-party witness accounts into a cohesive legal narrative. Paper trails show where money moves, but family members reveal underlying motive, said Loyola Law professor Grace Harris, an expert in celebrity litigation. She added that jurors often lend more weight to testimony from insiders, especially those willing to testify against blood relatives, citing the 2019 conviction of rapper Tekashi 6991's associates, where insider evidence proved pivotal. The sealed memo reportedly outlines at least 6 areas Christian Combs is ready to discuss: private jet itineraries, fund transfers from Combs-linked businesses, and real-time communication logs related to high-profile events. During Combs-related events, prosecutors allege that
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back behind bars, a magistrate judge denying him bail, saying that there were no conditions that she could conceive of that would make her confident that he would appear again for other court appearances. The judge saying, "My concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors."
What happens is if people go into a trial believing the firepower on the prosecution is so strong, I mean, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, it's a 95, that it's so strong, but it goes down to an 88. That helps the defense because everybody goes in thinking, wow, they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and all of a sudden, none of it's there. I think that actually helps the defense.
Security teams were directed to screen guests selectively, oversee cash distributions following parties, and follow instructions when media inquiries surfaced. These actions, they claim, supported a broader pattern of concealment. However, defense attorneys plan to challenge each of these claims. They argue that Christian Combs had minimal authority and lacked direct awareness of any illegal conduct occurring during or after events. This legal tension also highlights what appears to be a growing generational divide within the Combs family. In social media posts shared last winter, Christian Combs publicly distanced himself from his father's financial dealings, stating his focus remained solely on music and fashion, period. Friends close to the younger Combs say he was deeply unsettled by footage showing law enforcement agents in tactical gear raiding the Los Angeles estate, one he frequently used for recording sessions. The plea deal that Sean Combs recently rejected would have required him to admit guilt to 1 count of sexual assault and another tied to sex trafficking. It also demanded that he surrender firearms seized in March and forfeit $20 million in assets. The defense argued that the sentence was excessively punitive and framed the offer as prosecutorial overreach. "No agreement that labels our client a co-conspirator is acceptable," said lead attorney Aaron Sussman outside the courthouse, reinforcing the combative legal stance. Jury selection, scheduled for Monday, is expected to draw extensive media attention. With limited seating, court officials will allocate spots through a random lottery process. Analysts expect the prosecution to use opening statements to frame the case as a multi-layered criminal enterprise, one that intertwined music contracts, alcohol branding, and elite nightlife under the guise of legitimate business. The defense, meanwhile, will likely argue that the government is misrepresenting consensual adult relationships as crimes. They are expected to claim that many witnesses testifying against Combs have motives rooted in personal disputes or financial gain. This opening phase will set the tone for what is anticipated to be one of the most closely followed celebrity trials of the year, especially given the high-profile names involved and the magnitude of the allegations. If Judge Subramanian permits Christian Combs to testify, the trial schedule could shift dramatically. Prosecutors have indicated they may call him during the first week, prioritizing him over other cooperating witnesses whose identities remain protected under court seal. Legal experts suggest this move is strategic, aiming to anchor the prosecution's narrative early and underscore credibility through a high-stakes family dynamic. Former federal prosecutor Mark Diaz remarked, "Front-loading a family witness sends a message. It roots the case emotionally and factually." The courtroom impact could also ripple far beyond legal arguments, reshaping perceptions across the entertainment and branding industries. In anticipation of trial outcomes, several liquor distributors have paused shipments of De Leon tequila, a brand tied to Sean Combs. Meanwhile, streaming platforms report a spike in plays of Bad Boy Records' classic catalog as fans and observers revisit the label's cultural imprint. The entertainment sector watches closely.
Do you still think that, because there is this public perception, that there are celebrity tapes involved in this case?
No.
Do you still think that there are minors involved in this case?
I'm certain no.
Okay.
And again, when you say this case, we're talking the criminal case.
The criminal case.
In the
correct.
criminal,
I know that.
In the criminal case.
The,
in the criminal case,
right.
no.
She did, and when the judge did, Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before the judge who will oversee this trial and try to get Diddy to be released.
Knowing major verdicts could permanently alter business partnerships. From a social perspective, activists emphasize the weight of Christian Combs' possible testimony. Monique Reed, director of the Black Women's Justice Collective, stated, "Families often carry the hidden burden of abuse. If this son's voice helps validate survivor accounts, its impact transcends the courtroom." Despite his pending role, Christian Combs has yet to file a formal affidavit, and defense attorneys maintain the right to raise Fifth Amendment objections if questioning veers towards self-incriminating areas. For now, the sealed docket confirms a status hearing is scheduled for 8 a.m. Monday, just 30 minutes before jury pool assembly. Sean Combs remains in custody without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. The judge previously ruled that recent allegations and seized firearms justified continued detention. His legal team has submitted a renewed bail application citing health concerns within his family, but federal prosecutors remain opposed, arguing that Combs poses a credible flight risk with access to international assets. In the meantime, Christian Combs continues promoting his upcoming EP through social media posts. However, his touring activities are officially paused. A spokesperson from CYN Music Group issued a brief statement affirming the label's commitment to honoring all legal proceedings while declining further comment. As the trial begins, its implications stretch far beyond the courtroom, pressuring legacy brands, testing public loyalties, and challenging long-standing power dynamics within the music industry. Security preparations intensified at the federal courthouse over the weekend, as officials added new screening checkpoints and set up a designated media overflow room. Court officers anticipate crowds on par with the 2021 Ghislaine Maxwell trial, although pandemic-era restrictions limiting public gallery access remain partially in effect. As Sunday closed, Sean Combs' legal team filed a third-party motion requesting a protective order to shield sensitive family communications from public disclosure. In response, federal prosecutors submitted a counter-motion seeking expedited access to any expert reports the defense intends to use during trial. Judge Aaron Subramanian has scheduled a final status conference for 9 a.m. Monday morning to resolve outstanding pretrial issues and finalize the sequence of witness testimony. Christian Combs' cooperation status remains officially sealed, but several sources familiar with the matter say prosecutors intend to call him within the first week of proceedings. If he takes the stand, Christian Combs could authenticate key financial documents, verify private flight manifests, and explain encrypted messaging exchanges tied to events listed in the indictment, potentially accelerating the government's evidentiary timeline by several days. Lead defense attorney Aaron Sussman has pledged to rigorously cross-examine any cooperating witnesses, suggesting the defense strategy will include challenging Christian Combs' motives and emphasizing that he himself has not been criminally charged. The defense will likely argue that proximity to Combs' business dealings does not equal complicity, especially without evidence of direct involvement in any alleged crimes. For now, the unsealing of financial ledgers remains the most detailed documentary evidence provided to the public, offering a rare window into how federal prosecutors believe entertainment wealth blurred into criminal enterprise. These filings will likely form the cornerstone of the prosecution's narrative that Combs orchestrated a multi-layered financial operation under the guise of legitimate business. The trial, already being described as a potential turning point for celebrity accountability, opens under the dual shadows of possible family testimony and a complex financial web tied to one of hip-hop's most prominent empires. With the future of Combs' legacy, and perhaps bad boy entertainment itself, hanging in the balance, the courtroom is set to become the stage for a historic legal showdown. If you've made it this far, be sure to hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe to our channel for detailed coverage as the trial unfolds. Stay tuned. This is just the beginning.
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings.